Hello, Dave here with emergencyprepguy.com. I appreciate you stopping by. Apologize for my voice being a little bit rough. I've been fighting a sore throat for the last week and a half, but I'm on the mend. But my voice is still a little bit rough. But anyway, I'm out here in my greenhouse. I want to take a minute and show you with the camera just a quick glance at some of the updates that are done. I'll be doing a more complete update video pretty soon on it. But let me give you a quick preview here and then we'll get into our main topic. Okay, as you can tell, you probably can hear the rain hitting on the roof there. As a result, I've been working in here in the greenhouse, and I've got all my, the seedling table set up, and I've got all my, so it's kind of a mess. I apologize about that. Just been working in here. I'm working on building, let me see if I can back up so you can see this a little bit better. I'm working on building a automated water system using gravity flow and some water barrels here, black water barrels. Just because I don't have water run out here to this greenhouse, and I want to be able to store water in the greenhouse where it's above freezing, so that I can continue to grow things in the winter. I've got this row planted. You can see I've got the side of the greenhouse open because we're past our last freeze date here. And out there I've got the rows. I've got those rows all planted. Those 30-foot Mittlider beds. I don't know if you can see the T-structures there. So anyway, with that, let's get back into our main topic. Okay, our main topic for today's video is if you knew you only had 6 to 8 weeks to prepare for very serious financial and other emergency situations, what would you do? So as we talk about this today, I want you to think about your own situation. You know how prepared you are. I'm going to be limited in what I can say because of the platform that we're on. But hopefully you'll get some value out of this video. So what do I mean by 6 to 8 weeks to prepare? Well, we've got some things going on in the world. There's a conflict, military conflict, that's been going on for not super long, a couple of months. And in that, those particular countries produce a lot of fertilizer for the world. One of them is a major oil supplier, especially for Europe, but globally. And they're not the one country, the smaller country, is not able to really export anything. We're giving them all our money. And then the other country is not selling to the West except for in their own currency and on a very limited basis. And I've recently heard that they may stop selling to them at all. So that's going to cause some major fuel shortages. A month or so ago in our own country, leadership of the country, that's about as specific as I'll get, ordered railroads to stop shipping fertilizer. And this was at a time when, and how we found this out, by the way, was some major fertilizer companies made announcements to farmers, basically saying, any orders that are already in transit you'll be able to get, but any future orders for the time being are on hold because we can't ship them. So that's going to affect food in the upcoming months. The other thing is when the current leadership or at least acting leadership of our country, when they took over, they halted the pipeline. I won't say the name of the pipeline. U.S. Oil and natural gas pipelines they halted, as well as put a stop to all new permits for drilling. They're blaming the fuel shortages on that are coming, and the higher prices on the conflict that's going on. But we were a net exporter of those fuels, energy, and now we're not, and that was before the conflict. So we've got that going on. There's also and this stuff I can't really get into here on this video, but there's other things in the news about militaries preparing. There's just and the other thing is with our current leadership, my understanding is that they have the Fed under their guidance or leadership, however you want to look at it, have printed more money in the first year and a half. They printed more than all previous leaders before them combined. And so we've got the perfect storm for a surplus supply of currency for our country. When you have more supply than you have demand, the value of that, and that's what our currency basically is a commodity. It doesn't have any intrinsic value on its own. It's based off of supply and demand. And the other thing is about our currency, different, back in the 70s, we had an agreement with a lot of oil producing countries where we would protect them militarily if they agreed to only do energy transactions in U.S. our currency for our country. Those countries have now made deals with other countries to protect them militarily, and they're going off of the dollar. So if you think about who the three main world powers are, we're one of them. The other two are no longer buying or selling oil or natural gas in our currency, and this is only a few months old since that happened. Before that, they did. And there's other countries, about 6 or 7 other, major population countries around the world that I've heard of so far that are also no longer going to use our currency for energy transactions. I'm trying to pick my words carefully here so I don't get in trouble with the video. So what I'm saying is there's lots, and hopefully they're wrong, but there's lots of, and I'm not giving anybody financial advice or anything like that. I'm just an emergency preparedness guy, just telling you my own opinion. But there's lots of experts that have been saying that there's several different scenarios of crap hitting the fan that's supposed to happen June, July, August, September, October time frames. I've heard some that are really think it's going to happen towards the beginning of that time period that I said, and others say that it's going to happen after that. What kind of things could happen? Now, this is where I get into have to be really careful again. But our energy supply, meaning electricity, in this country is dependent upon, at this point, the fossil fuels, and that's how we generate electricity. So if that's going to be in short supply, which I saw in the news just recently that uh, the our country is the U.S. is using our emergency supplies, and that we don't have, we can't use them much longer. And so, in particular, the type of fuel that runs semi trucks and trains and powered electricity generation. I'm just not going to mention what kind of fuel that is. That one expert was saying he feels like it's not going to be how much does that fuel cost. It's going to be whether or not people will be able to get it. If it gets that short supply, shipping will have real shipping problems. For example, fertilizers are so heavy; it's basically rock that has to be generally shipped on by train. Trains run on that fuel. It, you know, Basically, if we think we have supply chain issues now, just wait till we have a shortage of that fuel. Then shipping will come almost to a halt, and energy production, electricity production, could be very spotty. Because they're dependent on that fuel as well. So think about now, if how prepared are you? Can you produce your own necessities? You want to think of the rule of threes, I think they call it. Basically, air, you can only last a minute or like 3 minutes without air. Water, you can only last 3 days. Some depends on the weather, sometimes 4 or 5 days, but in this rule of threes, it's 3 days without water. And food, like 30 days. You can actually, depending on how much on-body storage you have, you can last a little longer than that, but it isn't any fun. So the point is those are the things that you want to be concerned with. You want to make sure that you have a good air filtration system in case there's fires or smoke, or for that matter radiation from wartime activities. You want to be able to filter that kind of stuff out of the air so you can breathe uncontaminated air. You want to be able to have like a Berkey water filter that'll filter even the poisons and chemicals out of the water that governments put in it. But literally, you can take water out of a mud puddle and pour it in there, and have fresh, clean drinking water. But anyway, you want some sort of a filter, water filter like that, that's gravity, so that it's not dependent on electricity. And then you want food, and not just food storage. You want to have food stored, but you also want to have the ability to grow your own food. Some experts that I was listening to, I won't mention their names because just their names could get this video blocked. But there was a nutritionalist, a very well-known nutritionalist, and another scientist guest lady that he had on, and they were talking about, but this guest that he had on was talking about how, raising your own meat it's the easiest, cheapest, most efficient way to produce a lot of calories and proteins that your family needs compared to plants. Plants are awesome. You got to be able to grow a garden, but consider having something like quail, rabbits, and chickens for eggs, and rabbits for meat, and quail for meat and eggs. You want to be able to, those are things that you can raise. My favorite is rabbits, just because they produce so much meat. They reproduce like rabbits, and you could literally feed them off your garden scraps and your lawn if you had to, if pellets and other types of feed or hay became short. And you can store hay and feed them off of hay too, which I think is awesome. So anyway, I hope this is just gets you thinking. I really think, based on what I'm hearing and what's going on, I've heard my whole life what gives the our currency, its strength, is the fact that so many countries have to hold reserves of our money in order to do energy transactions. And I've always heard, that's why we can spend so much, deficit spend so much, because um, there's such a demand for our money. Well, if these countries no longer have to hold reserves of our money anymore, our currency, because they don't need it for oil transactions, which is why they were holding it. There could be that all of our money will get dumped on the market. They won't need to hold the money anymore. That could cause some massive inflation, a crash of our money value, and that's something going on with all of the shortages and conflicts that are going on. So if you haven't gotten prepared, I would say now is the time to prepare. And that's the way I would look at it is, okay, if the problems that sound like they're going to happen in 6 to 8 weeks, if they don't happen, great, you're prepared though. But if they do happen and you're not prepared, that's a lot worse. And so that's the way I would look at it is, I've got to be prepared in 6 to 8 weeks. What are the preparations I've had already, and what do I need to do, and consider the things in order of most importance, like we talked about. The last thing I want to mention is just something on canned foods, because there's been a lot of confusion and a lot of misinformation about how long canned foods will store. And it's not me claiming this, but I've listened to several different scientists that have been on different podcasts and so forth that have been talking about how they ran a test. This one guy, he ran a test. And it's been too long since I listened to it, or I'd post a link to it below this video, but I can't remember what it was. But basically, he ran a test on 30-year-old, just normal, like you get in the grocery store, canned foods. And he opened them up. As long as the cans were not, dented or damaged, he said the food was perfectly fine. They ate it, and they tested it for the nutritional value, and the nutritional value was pretty much exactly the same as it was when they first canned it, and it was 30 years old. So the whole thing about canned food going bad in 2 to 3 years, I think is and again, I'm not a expert on that, but I've heard experts talk about it. My personal opinion is I think that's a bunch of malarkey. And basically what this scientist was saying was, when you open up the can, you can tell if it's bad. If it smells bad and doesn't look normal, looks moldy or whatever, then don't eat it. But if it looks normal and tastes normal, then it's totally fine. And so, anyway, I hope this is helpful. I hope you've gotten some value out of this. Again, that's really the purpose of my channel, is to give you guys ideas and encourage you to prepare, so that if an emergency, something as simple as getting laid off from work, or some big natural or man-made disaster, that you'll be prepared. So thanks so much. We'll talk to you in the next video.